It's real talk. Man, it's real talk with your main Chip Washington. When it comes to information, the main got an arsenal. Bring you up to speed with what you need. He's a local and nationwide news feed. Let's talk about it. Dialect to do something about it. Chip got the flow wide open if you got questions about it. Man, it's the show that brings you to your raw. To solve all problems, it starts with real talk. Real talk. It's 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 real talk. Yeah. Welcome to Real Talk with your host, Chip Washington. It's real talk. It's real talk. It's real talk.
And here we go on this Monday for another all-new edition of Real Talk Memphis. I am your host, the humble one, Chip Washington. Glad to be with you on this day. We've been expecting rain all day, at least I have, and so far, so good, so dry, and hopefully it will stay that way. Today is the first official day of summer, the 21st day of June on this year. So it wasn't blistering hot today, but it felt nice and warm and comfortable. So how's everybody doing? You guys doing all right tonight? Hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody's feeling good since the last time we communicated with each other about 7 days ago. We have a good show for you tonight, as we try to do generally each and every week. But before we get started, you might be asking yourself, well, Chip, how can we find this great piece of radio broadcasting? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can do it one of three ways. We are on live right now on 91.7 on your FM dial. And I'm sorry, I was a bit distracted by somebody outside our glass window. So you can catch us on 91.7 FM live, or you can go to the TuneIn app, TuneIn, put in WYXR in the search, and press play, and you'll hear us crystal clearly. Or you can go to the website, WYXR.org. Now, before I get started too deep into the show, y'all need to pray for me tonight. I'm not feeling well today. My body is trying to fight off germs and antibodies not related to COVID, by the way. I am fully vaccinated, so I'm good on that front. But it's that you get a little cold every now and again. You're not feeling so good. So the throat is taking a beating tonight. But you know what? The great ones play hurt. So we're here tonight. We're gonna carry forth and we're gonna carry on. We are going to have a bit of a change in the show. Jason Farmer was set to join us tonight. He is the CEO of BLP Film Studios, Black Lens Productions. He had to cancel at the last minute this evening due to unexpected circumstances. So we'll try to rebook him and get him back on the show. But in the meantime and between time, we talked a lot about the COVID situation in terms of the variant. The latest variant that is out is the Delta variant. It is 50% more contagious, more deadly, and it is starting to spread around this country. I heard earlier today that it is at about 19% nationwide. And, of course, the places that aren't fully vaccinated are the ones who are going to be the most susceptible. So if you're listening to this show right now and you've not been vaccinated or have had one, you need to step it up and do the right thing for yourself and for your family and for your friends and those that love you dearly. Get vaccinated. This variant, I think we have 14. I want to say we have 14. I think we have 18 cases now here in Shelby County. It is spreading very, very quickly nationwide, and it is a dangerous variant. So please take note of that and do what you need to do. Plenty of testing available, plenty of shots available out here. So there's no excuse or problem or issue other than you going and finding it. Okay? So, having said all that, Dr. Steve will be with us in the next few minutes. A little bit later on, we will have Barbara Farmer-Tolbert and Olliette Drobot. They are the co-founders of a consulting group. It is called L.A.C.E, which stands for Law Enforcement and Community Enhancement Consultants. They will tell us exactly what that means and how they work to provide the connective tissue between law enforcement and the community in terms of how to keep us safe and some of the things that we need to do in terms of an open conversation about things like that. And so those are my guests for right now. You know me, I'm pretty good at the talk thing. So we'll vamp and we'll get through all of this. But first things first, if you are celebrating a birthday, an anniversary, or a special occasion, this segment is for you. Marquette, hit it. It's birthday time, ladies and gentlemen. So we want to say happy birthday from Real Talk Memphis to Teresa Lucas, celebrating today. Sharon Buffy Williams, happy birthday to you. Daryl Genius, it's your birthday. Shataka Robertson, Regina Quinn, Tara Smith, and a guy I've known for a very long time, but I'm the only one that ages. He just never seems to. Anyway, y'all know Leon, don't you? Leon Griffin Jr., Big Leon. It is his birthday on this 21st day of June. And the sax man, Mark Baker. Y'all know Mark. Been around town for a while. Great talent. Can play the heck out of that saxophone. He is celebrating a birthday as well. And I would be remiss if I did not wish probably the youngest member of the Real Talk Memphis family a happy birthday. His name is Vincent. His name is, and he is 3 years old today. Not one, not two, but three. And he is the younger brother of Adam. So Vincent Paget, mom out here today, and his dad out here today, Melissa and Clark. And I see Vincent running around enjoying himself. He was blowing out birthday cake earlier today. So happy birthday to you, my friend. Third birthday, 3 years old. So if you're celebrating a birthday, an anniversary, or, as I said, a special occasion, congratulations to each and every one of you. Before we get too deep into this, I want to send out condolences. Late this afternoon, we heard about the death of George Cates. George is a civil leader here in the city of Memphis in Shelby County. He was the founder of MAA. He died in a single-engine plane crash earlier today just outside of Jackson, Tennessee. So that news came through late this afternoon, the confirmation that Mr. George Cates, who is very big in the civic community here in Memphis, succumbed to his injuries in terms of the plane crash earlier this morning, just outside of Jackson, Tennessee. So condolences to his family, friends, and all those who knew him best. God bless. So in some news and notes today, as I said earlier, today is the first official day of summer as we are buzzing through the month of June. And as I also stated, the Delta variant is spreading faster in less vaccinated counties. 19% of the total population has been infected nationwide. That's up from 10% last week. So again, seriously, no joke. Get vaccinated, please. If you haven't, and Dr. Threlkeld is going to talk about that in a few minutes. And basically, he will say one of two things. He will say something is going to happen. It's either you're going to be protected by being vaccinated, or you are going to get COVID. Those are your choices. So you either pay me now or you can pay me later. All right. So serious note on that for real. Also, and speaking of all things COVID and vaccinations and things like that, the First Lady of the United States, Jill Biden, was in the state. Well, she will be tomorrow, as a matter of fact. She is going to be in Jackson, Mississippi, and she will also be in Nashville, Tennessee. That is tomorrow. She's going to visit COVID-19 vaccine sites and encourage people in all these communities to get vaccinated because, hey, I want you here. I want you here, and I want you here healthy and upright and strong. In other national news, did you hear about the fact that American Airlines has canceled hundreds and hundreds of flights the last 2 or 3 days? Why? Because the demand for flying is outweighing the number of people that they have to serve you. In other words, they don't have enough staff to handle the overwhelming amount of people who are starting to travel now. Now that they've lifted restrictions, people are traveling or starting to travel all over the country. And so that is a big, big deal. And so they have, for the third day in a row, canceled flights. And hopefully they can, fix that problem and go for there. Did y'all get the message from Dr. Steve about a passcode? Okay, they're working on it. Okay, I'm sorry. I was talking to my crew here. So anyway, that's that. And so now my question is, how many more airlines are going to have this same particular issue? We don't know. I mean, this is the first that we've heard of it from a personnel perspective. Now, I do know that TSA, the folks that are responsible for the security at the airports, are really struggling in terms of trying to hire people. They're trying to hire 6,000 people total within the next few months. I think they've gotten halfway through that total, but they're still trying to hire folks to do the security end of things. And, we'll see how that plays out. So if you're looking for a job, and speaking of, did you know that the unemployment benefits that the state has been holding on to for the past, several months is going to end in July, like July 3rd, by the way. So if you have been collecting unemployment, that's about to end, or the additional $300 of unemployment. So a lot of folks still not working. Every street corner I pass has a sign out front that says, now hiring, staff needed, apply now, the whole 9 yards. And so if you are unemployed and want to be gainfully employed, you should take advantage of the situation now in terms of the job market out here, okay? All right? It's going to end on July 3rd. I don't want you freaking out. Don't go crazy when it happens, because it's about to happen. The governor said no more of that. It's time for Tennessee to open up and go back to work. When we think of food and when we think of, just eating in general, which I tend to think about, on occasion, many folks are switching gears and going away from the meat and going into the vegan category. Surprisingly enough, there are a lot of people who are vegans in this town. And because of that, there are many different restaurants. I know there are food trucks that are vegan food trucks, and there are a lot of vegan restaurants opening up in town, and I hear the food is very good. You notice I said I hear the food is very good. There's a reason for that. I got to have some meat every now and then. That's just it, okay? Not ashamed to say it. Chicken leg, good every now and again. You know what I'm saying? Good steak. Yeah. So anyway, they had the Memphis Vegan Festival this weekend, and I'm told that hundreds of people attended and had a really, really good time. Speaking of, we celebrated Juneteenth for the first time, nationwide, all across the country. In Memphis, no exception to that rule. Had some great ceremonies all over town in terms of celebrating Juneteenth, which is, of course, the document that officially freed the slaves back in 1863, I believe it was. So some great celebrations this weekend. Lots of folks out. Weather was good, a little hot. Weather was good. Folks had a good time, from what I'm to understand, and enjoyed themselves. So we prepare for next year. By the way, the 4th of July is what, 2 weeks from now? Something like that? Like 2 weeks from today, I think, right? The 5th? I think we celebrated the 5th? Yeah. And while I'm staring at it, Marquette, you graduated when? Thursday? Ladies and gentlemen, Marquette Walker is officially a graduate of high school. He is on his way to Clark Atlanta University sometime in the fall. So congratulations, my friend. Good job. Nice job. Well done. You've done your due diligence, and now it is off to, work in school. And trust me, in a few years, and it may not even be that long, you're going to see this boy on national television somewhere. I'm telling you right now, this kid has got some serious skills and talent. And, but the true test of all of that will be when I call him and I try to reach him, and he doesn't return my phone call. Then we all get in the car and going to Atlanta and finding him. I can tell you that right now. All right, so listen up. We are going to take our first break of the program, and I see him. Dr. Steve Threlkeld is in the bullpen, ready to go. We are going to talk about COVID and this very dangerous variant, and Dr. T is not going to pull any punches because that's not the kind of guy he is. This is Real Talk Memphis. I am your host, Chip Washington. Happy to have you with us on this Monday. We will take a quick break, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Real Talk with Chip Washington. If you're celebrating a birthday, anniversary, or special occasion, shoot him a note and he'll read it on the air. Get involved and tell somebody about Real Talk. We'll be right back.
Thanks to the support of you, our listeners, WYXR's inaugural pledge drive was a resounding success. In addition to donations from the public, we are proud to thank our matching sponsors, including Sterling Building Specialists, Crosstown Dental, Involve Client Services, Grinder Tabor Grinder, Nexair, and Bible and Tired Record Company. We are grateful for your generosity and assistance in striving towards our goal.
Like what you're hearing? WYXR is a listener-supported station. Help keep the sound of Memphis alive by donating at WYXR.org. Like what you're hearing? WYXR is a listener-supported station. Help keep the sound of Memphis alive by donating at WYXR.org.
Are you interested in sponsoring the show and want to support WYXR at the same time? To find out how, email us at sponsorships@wyxr.org.
Are you loving what you're hearing on WYXR? Well, we want to hear from you. Just give us a call at 901-460-3031 and leave us a 10 to 15 second message with your first name, maybe a specific show that you enjoy, or why you really love WYXR. We might just play it on the air. We can't wait to hear from you. Peace.
Get Real Talk on the TuneIn mobile app under WYXR, and he's now streaming live on Facebook. And you can also catch a rebroadcast on YouTube. Just put WYXR in the search box and hit subscribe. Now back to more Real Talk with Chip Washington.
And welcome back to Real Talk Memphis with Chip on this Monday evening. Very happy to have you with us and very happy to have my first guest with us. We have been talking about the new variant, of course, even though the restrictions have been loosened quite a bit and folks are trying to get back to a normal semblance of life and living. We have a variant that is out there that has started to gain the attention of folks all across this country, none more so than our own Dr. Steve Threlkeld. He is an infectious disease specialist, the Baptist Medical Group. And Dr. Steve, thank you for being once again on the show. Really appreciate you.
Thanks, Chip. Always good to be with you.
So you and I have been talking kind of offline, but you've been pretty blunt. And I guess for those who don't know and haven't really heard or paid much attention to it, talk about this Delta variant, its emanation, and why people like you and other folks in your field are so concerned.
Well, I mean, it began a few months ago in India, seemingly, and it's just taking over the world as we expect. It's much like the UK variant did before. It's the faster horse, and it will win. It will take over because it's more efficient, and it's going to be the predominant variant here very quickly. It's just the way these things work. As I say, we saw it with the UK variant. It is more contagious, significantly so. Some say it's more virulent, more deadly, more dangerous. It's a little early to know that for sure. We thought that of the UK variant at first as well. It didn't really pan out. But in some studies in Scotland, it had twice the hospitalization rate of the UK, or now called the Alpha variant. So it's important. And one other kind of interesting thing about it is that the RNA vaccines weren't terribly effective if you only got one of them.
Right.
So it's going to really tell the difference whether you got one or two of the vaccines. So being fully vaccinated is going to be important. And we unfortunately live sort of in the epicenter of the poorest vaccine percentage in the country right now. So though it's not going to take over our hospitals again and make them overcrowded and in a dangerous situation, but there are going to be pockets of people who are infected and will die. And despite the country hopefully weathering it well itself, we could be in an area kind of, Memphis is the center of West Tennessee, Eastern Arkansas, North Mississippi, and those
Right.
are the places that haven't been vaccinated as much. So we could see an uptick for sure as this thing takes over, particularly into the cooler months.
Speaking with Dr. Steve Threlkeld, an infectious disease specialist, you have seen him, on countless times, every day on television talking about these variants and COVID. And, what you just said should be really an attention getter. Of course, the first portion of that is if you are vaccinated with only one shot, it's not effective apparently against this particular strain of variant, about 30% or so. And you're right, we are in the belt of the country. This southeastern corner here is the lowest vaccinated part of the entire country. And I did hear that, I think I heard somewhere in England or Britain, where literally it jumped percentage-wise 50% from 1 week to the next. So this really is something that bears some very serious attention, is it not?
There's no question. As you say, it went from 30 to 90% effective with the vaccine if you took the second dose.
Right.
But look, there are a lot of people here people say, well, you're doom and gloom. And no, we're in a pretty good shape overall nationally, but there are just a lot of people out there who still have left to get this. And make no mistake, these viruses are getting more and more and more contagious. So it is going to more efficiently hunt you if you are unprotected, i.e. unvaccinated. So it's never been more important to go ahead and get the vaccine now because, as I like to say, the odds that you are going to escape either vaccination or COVID infection, that zone is getting smaller and smaller, and you're less likely to do that. And if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to face the disease. And if you're unvaccinated, you're just as dangerous, or it's just as dangerous to you as it was a year ago.
And having said what you just said, in addition to that, of course, last year, and I would imagine it had a lot to do with COVID rearing its ugly head in terms of, as we get into the fall months, generally considered flu season. I'm also to understand that the experts are predicting that this could be a pretty rough flu season as well, vaccinations notwithstanding. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, there's no question. Respiratory tract infections of all types plummeted last year with all the precautions that we were taking for COVID. Mm-hmm. So sure, if we stop those things are going to come back, and then you could have this at least a local kind of rush of COVID again, and a flu. Flu kills 30,000 people a year in the United States. We lost 600,000 from COVID, so it's nothing quite like that, by 20-fold. But you don't want them both because it's going to be hard to tell the difference. And interestingly, antibiotic use in general went down 70, 80% as a result of all this. So prescriptions, that is, in an outpatient. So we don't want to deal with any of this stuff again. We're doing pretty well with vaccination, but locally we've got to do better. There are going to be these pockets of people. We still see people come in and die of this infection. We're tired of that. So we're not saying that it's going to hit everybody. If you've been vaccinated, you're probably pretty well protected. But we've got to bring more people into that fold. There's no reason for us to sacrifice people to this thing because they haven't gotten the vaccine.
We have seen, as you said, the numbers of vaccinated people has dropped off dramatically. Not just here, but all over the country. There is just a big time resistance to it. And I guess the question I have in the back of my head is, as we move forward through the summer months and get into the fall, what happens with school? Kids are going to be going back. There won't be really any of this, sitting at home doing the remote thing. I think the plan is for all these kids to go back to face-to-face learning. Now, we have an issue that 12 to 17-year-olds now are eligible for the vaccine. but the percentage of those individuals is low in terms of the vaccinations. And then what happens with the younger set? What's your thought process as we head closer to the reinsertion of kids back in school?
Well, I think there are a couple things. The youngest kids, we really haven't seen the data on that yet. So we got to know what those numbers are with safety and efficacy. So we don't really know. The good news is that those kids are very unlikely to get very sick from this. We do see it. We've had them in the ICU. They have the post-COVID multi-system inflammatory syndrome. So there are kids rarely that die of this, but it's very uncommon. There's no question. But with that spreading through the school population to a higher degree, they're going to bring that home to parents who are unvaccinated or people who are not able to get good immunity because of immunosuppression. And so, again, it's just going to be one of the ways that this thing hunts down people who are not protected. It's just going to help it spread more efficiently. And it's already, as I say, the fastest horse there is in this thing.
So, and having said that, about kids not necessarily getting as sick from this as our older folks, but they are spreaders, and they can be spreaders. And you know how kids are. I mean, they don't, they're being kids. And so, as they commiserate with one another and they bring that stuff home, and a lot of the parents have yet to be vaccinated, will not allow their children to be vaccinated. And I don't know if you even have a thought or an opinion on this, but why is it that all of a sudden it seems like, everyone has just sort of shut down in terms of vaccinations and what could actually make us more protected when we're only like 40% now?
Yeah, it's frustrating. Certainly, some people just don't believe in it. I think there's still a population out there that just hasn't bothered. This sort of inertia, you got to take it to them. Sort of. There's a lot of that in healthcare in general. So I think we still need to really work hard to get it to people. Local pharmacies, primary care physicians are very, very important because people trust those folks. Yeah. And if your primary care physician or nurse practitioner tells you, look, here are the reasons to do it, we find a very high rate of success in getting the vaccine to people. So we need to push it out to where they are. And I think that can gain us a lot more people vaccinated. But there's still, as you say, a big hill to climb, particularly in this part of the country. And it's just going to make a big difference in what we see come the winter months, to be sure. And again, that's not being doom and gloom. We're protected if we're vaccinated in the vast, vast, vast majority of people. But we need to look after those people who can't get successful vaccination because of their immunosuppression. And we need to talk to those people to make sure they have the facts. Because as I say, I mean, when I get 5 or 10 minutes to talk to somebody and really meet them where their concerns are, I have a pretty good rate of talking them into it because the data are so impressive for the vaccine compared to suffering through the illness. There's no question about that.
I was going to ask you, as a practicing physician, you see patients, a lot, and I'm sure, and I know you and I have talked in the past, and you've had some die and had some get pretty sick. But when you do talk to these people, and I want to focus on the ones who are the negative, who are the naysayers, who are saying, no matter what you say, I'm not going to do it. Where does that come from? I mean, I know that there are myths out there. People are saying if you do this, if it does that, if you take the shot, it'll affect you this kind of way. I mean, the ones who are telling you no, what is the reason for that?
Sometimes it's just fear of the unknown, and the vaccine seems to them to be more of the unknown than the actual illness, which I think exactly opposite. I mean, we lost 600,000 people, not to mention the countless people with significant ongoing and lingering health problems. I mean, it's a big deal. And there's also this political part of it, which haven't helped me fail to understand, because I think we have to point out something. Both presidential candidates in 2020 claim credit for the vaccine. Now, we may not be able to, we will argue forever on who gets the most credit, but I think we pretty much can agree that they didn't get together and decide to put one over on the American people and then hug on it and then say we're going to blame each other for this and run along now. We don't think that happens, but that's what would have had to have happened for this to be some sort of government control thing. So I think you hope that we can sort of get that stuff across to people as well as just the medical facts of it.
Do you think that at any point, because this question is now starting to crop up, especially here, okay, we've released the hound, so to speak, and we've lessened a lot of, but there's basically really no restrictions. If you want to wear a mask, that's your choice. A lot of places don't require it. Some recommend it, and again, it's your choice, it's your call, it's your decision. But, as we, I don't know, as we move forward in this, sense that there is maybe questions about, will we have to pause something? Will we have to reissue masks? Will we have to reissue restrictions? I'm sure you're a forward thinker, so I know, and I know it's way too early to have that conversation, but still, folks are thinking about it, are they not?
No, I think you're exactly right. I think part of the problems we've had is that we didn't have conversations soon enough. So I agree with you. I think now is exactly the time to think about that. I think it's not going to happen for a couple of reasons. I mean, people are tired of this, and we've broken into two camps now. One camp that says, I'm not going to worry about this. I don't care. I'm not going to get vaccinated. I don't believe in it. I don't think this is a big deal. Now, you're right. I do see people die every week almost who have that opinion, and that's not many anymore, thankfully, but there are some. And the other is the group of people who did go out and get vaccinated, and they're increasingly saying, you know what, they had their chance to get vaccinated. We're done with them. We're returning to normal life. And there aren't many people between those groups now. And that makes for a weird political alliance, but it'd be very hard to enact any greater restrictions again, unless you saw something really terrible like a variant come along that was resistant to all the vaccines previously. That's possible, but thankfully we haven't seen it yet. That would be the one terrible game changer. But barring something like that, there are just too many people protected now for, I think, us to go back to any sort of larger scale restriction.
So having said that, and as we're rounding third and headed toward home here, clearly there is cause for concern. Clearly there is something this is something out here that is starting to gain momentum and getting a little attention. Hadn't gotten a lot yet. I'm sort of the school that, it takes an attention getter of a tragic magnitude in order to get people to stop and realize, hey, there's something going on here. And do you see that as well in terms of what would have to happen in terms of really galvanizing people to say, hey, you understand how serious this is now?
Yeah, there's no question. But of course, with 600,000 dead, if you haven't understood it by now, I'm not sure exactly. It would have to be something beyond that, which we certainly hope is not going to happen. Yeah. I am not a doom and gloomer. I think we're going to do better and better. The summer months are going to be pretty good, and the people who are protected are indeed protected. But I think in terms of the masks and so forth, I still see very rare people get sick even though they're vaccinated. And I think that has to do with the inoculum, how much is sprayed at you. People have really high volumes, and I've seen at least one person die in that situation who was vaccinated and with a normal immune system. So I still have a mask in my pocket. Yeah. And if I'm sardined in with somebody in a poor airflow place indoors, I still might put it on as a totally protected person. But you hope we're not going to be able to see anything that's going to be just an earth mover like we saw last time. But anybody that saw those people die, and is not affected, I don't know what to say, but I can tell you this, that as healthcare workers, we still see people die, and we're awfully tired of it. And we're not willing to sacrifice anybody. We want those pockets of people who are unprotected to get protected, because there's really no reason not to at this point. And that's what we've got to get the message out, and we've got to get that vaccine close to them so they'll reach out and get it and not to have to go too much trouble.
You said something very profound, and I want you to say it again to the listening audience before you leave. There are two choices that we have, and those choices are?
Well, you're going to either get infected or you're going to get vaccinated. And we've always thought that, but these new variants are coming at us faster and more efficiently, and they're going to hunt you down if you're not protected. You may do fine when you get the infection, but enough people have died now where it's not a risk I'm willing to take with any of my loved ones or friends.
Dr. Steve Threlkeld, infectious disease specialist from Baptist Medical Group. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for giving us, or like as I like to say, dropping the knowledge. I really appreciate you, and I promise you I'll have you back if you want to come back.
Always good to be with you. Thank you for helping getting the word out. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Dr. Steve Threlkeld, ladies and gentlemen, was our first guest, and he broke it down pretty adeptly. Adam, pretty adeptly in terms of what's out here, what we need to do, what has to happen, what you need to do, and it's a very simple situation. It boils down to pay me now or pay me later. The choice is, you can get the shot and be protected, or you can not get the shot and have some very serious complications, on the back end of this thing. We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to shift gears and talk about community engagement as pertains to law enforcement and how to keep you safe. We're going to talk to a couple of ladies who are very expert in this field and who will share some information with you in terms of some of the programmatics that they have and just what the initials L.A.C.E mean. This is Real Talk Memphis. I am your host, Chip. We are going to take our second break of the broadcast, and we will be right back.
If you like Real Talk, here's a way you can get involved. Do you have a show topic idea or suggestion? Want to be considered a guest or have a guest idea? Then send Chip a message on his Real Talk show page and you can be a part of the Real Talk experience. So as he always says, go out and tell somebody. We'll be right back.
Hey Memphis, my name is Ron Buck. I am looking forward to bringing you my show, Riverside, every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. I will be playing rock and blues, old and new, and featuring Memphis music and events. I hope you'll tune in to Riverside every Friday at 1 p.m. on WYXR 91.7 FM, Raised by Sound.
Everyone, this is Janet, host of Jaunt with Janet, Wednesdays from 4 to 6 p.m., bringing you new releases in the rock, pop, and electronic genres with a little bit of the old fused in, all here on WYXR Memphis 91.7 FM.
Yo, what up? It is the president of Driven Type T, and you're now tuned in to Memphis' own WYXR 91.7 FM. The station with the city soul, man. Come on, you know what it is. Remember, never stop. Stay driven. Peace.
This is Bishop Phoebe Rofe of the Episcopal Diocese of West Tennessee. Tune in every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. at WYXR 91.7 FM to hear conversations with community leaders about the role of faith in their lives. That's Faithfully Memphis, right here on WYXR FM.
Superman. There's really nothing better than a box of records. Not even a bottle of beer. Drinks are gone in a matter of minutes, but vinyl just won't disappear.
Hi there, this is Zach Ives. My show, A Box of Records, plays every Tuesday night, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., right here on WYXR 91.7 FM, Memphis, Tennessee.
You're listening to WYXR 91.7 FM Memphis. This is Nancy, and I hope you'll join me on a musical journey from 2 to 4 p.m. Mondays with Memphis Undercover.
Get Real Talk on the TuneIn mobile app under WYXR, and he's now streaming live on Facebook. And you can also catch a rebroadcast on YouTube. Just put WYXR in the search box and hit subscribe. Now back to more Real Talk with Chip Washington.
And welcome back to Real Talk Memphis on this Monday, June 21st. I am your humble host, Chip Washington. Very happy to have you along for the ride. I hope you heard that first interview. And by the way, if you miss any part of this broadcast tonight, we are a podcast. So once it's posted sometime late tomorrow morning early afternoon, you can hear this broadcast wherever it is you get your podcast. I like saying that. Anyway, we are going to move forward here in the big broadcast, and there are a lot of issues in our city, and there are a lot of challenges that people face in our city on a daily basis. The young ladies that I am about to introduce here in a minute have really dedicated their life to law enforcement and to safety and to the safety of others. And they're going to tell us, they are consultants, and they're going to tell us about a particular program that they founded and created, and that they are exposing all of us here in Memphis and Shelby County to, called L.A.C.E, which is Law Enforcement and Community Enhancement. We have Barbara Farmer-Tolbert with us and Olliette Drobot. And Barbara, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, thank you first and foremost for coming on the show. Full disclosure, she and I used to work together at Shelby County Sheriff's Office. I've known her for a long time, and I told her during the break, I don't know what the heck happened on my side of the age line, because I look like a little old man. She looks like she's getting younger and younger every time I see you. But it's very good, nice to see you, my friend. Good to see you again.
Great. It's good to see you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about L.A.C.E and what law enforcement and community enhancement, as you two are consultants, is all about. And first things first, what made you decide to develop this particular company or program?
Actually, about a year ago, I left the sheriff's office. I was a special victims unit detective. Also, before that, I was a detective in domestic assault. And prior to that, I was a detective in internal affairs. Yeah. So I had a pretty, panoramic view of the detective division for Shelby County. And Olliette Drobot, she left about a year ago, and we didn't know that each other had left our positions. And so she left the Family Safety Center as the executive director. So we had a conversation and we talked. And so she was talking about her side as dealing with victims after they have had contact with law enforcement. And I had a different view of dealing with them firsthand, coming in as a victim. And she had the journey when they would go from victim to survivor. So as we began to talk, we realized that between the both of us, we had about 35 years dealing with victims, whether on the law enforcement side or Olliette victim to survivor side.
Right.
And we said, what can we do with this? And we got together and we came up with the concept of L.A.C.E. And right in the middle of this pandemic, and especially what has happened when the world got to see George Floyd happen basically in real time. And not that it had never happened before, but at that particular time when it happened with Mr. Floyd, the entire world had eyes on it.
Right.
And so we called it L.A.C.E, Law Enforcement and Community Enhancement, because we said the world have seen enough of engagement. Now, what can we do to reconnect community and law enforcement?
So, having said what you just said and explained the foundation of the company and the organization, how do you go about setting that course? How do you go about connecting the dots, so to speak, from law enforcement, to victim to survivor?
We have the conversation. We set the platform with law enforcement first, because Olliette and I had so many relationships within that platform with the AG's office, with district attorneys, with attorneys, and also with law enforcement, whether it's the chief of police or the director of police departments. So we already had those relationships. And so we had to start having those conversations of what can we do in order to connect, because one thing about the public, they may have one view of what they think law enforcement is, just like we heard the term defund the police.
Right.
In the real world, there's no way we could not have law enforcement. If the world is in the state that it's in now with law enforcement in place, there is absolutely no way we cannot have law enforcement. So we figure out ways, how do we bridge that gap that seems to have been broken? And we go in and have these conversations, because it sounds different when I go into a room and talk with police officers, having been an officer myself. It's different when they hear it from Olliette Drobot, because a lot of those officers, especially the officers who work within domestic assault units, everyone knows Olliette Drobot. You drop that name and they're like, oh yeah, she's the Family Safety Center Executive Director.
Exactly.
So we were able to walk into those rooms and get a different response than someone who's just walking in as general public.
We're speaking with Barbara Farmer-Tolbert and Olliette Drobot, founders of L.A.C.E, which is Law Enforcement and Community Enhancement Consultants. And, you talked about COVID, and of course, that has changed lives forever. And quite honestly, it exacerbated a lot of the issues that you just spoke to a few minutes ago. In particular when folks were out of work and, nothing was going on and there was a lot of pressure in households of, how to make it, what do we need to do? And there was a lot of stress, and that's on the back end of that stress. There was a lot of, violent episodes, and we saw the numbers go up exponentially. Where are we at now with that? And as you continue your conversations with the community at large, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? And, where are we headed?
I'll let Olliette speak on that.
Hey, Olliette, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being part of the conversation.
Well, part of the work that I'm doing now, as Barbara mentioned, both of us have been doing consulting work for about a year now. And I've been doing work with nonprofit organizations, advocacy organizations that are working very closely with folks who are dealing with trauma. You mentioned some of that has been around violence, and the numbers, as you mentioned, have gone up drastically. That has created a lot more demand on organizations with very limited resources, which is one reason why I was very interested in Barbara and I working together, because I've just seen the stress on organizations as they work with families who are going to experience quite a bit. Some of that is due to COVID. Also, some of that is due to folks lost their jobs. That created additional stress on those, families that were already living on the edge.
Yes.
And so for many, even for some of those organizations, have lost some trust in law enforcement. Because of, again, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and some of the other things, right? And sometimes families who need to call law enforcement don't feel comfortable calling law enforcement. So again, Barbara and I wanted to be a part of that solution and helping to rebuild those relationships and those connections, because sometimes folks really do need to call law enforcement because their lives are in danger. And we want to make sure they feel comfortable enough to do so. And we also want to make sure those organizations that are working closely with those families also have those relationships as well. We thought we had the experience, we had the knowledge to help with that. I will tell you, it's still quite difficult now. Those needs have not gone away. Again, a lot of those organizations are still involved with those families and are looking for additional resources. Although we are seeing some positive things. For instance, I think it was Shelby County Commission just raised some additional money to provide some additional support for mental health services for young people, and that will go a long way.
So, and this is for either one of you. And again, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Barbara Farmer-Tolbert and Olliette Drobot, who are the founders of Law Enforcement and Community Enhancement, also known as L.A.C.E. You talked about the fact that there are still great challenges out here, and that trust issue that you spoke of, Olliette, in particular, is probably one of the biggest hurdles I would imagine for either of you to have to jump to try to foster a sense of, well, you can trust again. We have to try to mend this broken relationship that has been broken, in many instances that you named earlier, not only across the country, but even here. We have a new police chief. She is the first female police chief in the history of the Memphis Police Department. So what kind of approach are you taking with not only law enforcement, but the community to try to help mend these fences, if you will?
Right. And
Go ahead.
I'll speak a little bit to that. I've been involved with a lot of advocacy organizations and nonprofit organizations for years now, and I'm still in conversation with lots of them. I will tell you this, although, there are trust issues there, folks feel very strongly, though, about their neighborhoods. They feel strongly about the safety of neighbors. And so I think what you'll find is folks want to be at the table. They want to be at the table when it comes to helping to develop solutions. Yeah, there are some folks that's like, look, I don't want anything to do with law enforcement. However, majority of folks are still hopeful and they want that relationship with law enforcement. What they're looking for is transparency. What they're looking for is openness. What they're looking for is to be at the table and want to feel like they're in partnership with law enforcement with keeping their neighborhoods safe. So I think there's a lot of room there for growth and to rebuild those relationships, because I feel like the desire is there. And I think with law enforcement, I think they're struggling too to figure out, how to make it happen. And we want to make it happen. I think we both have the relationships and trust on both sides of law enforcement and with community members to help with this relationship.
And having said that, Barbara, I want to ask you, because you bring the law enforcement perspective to this from your background and great experience. If you had a chance to sit down with the new police chief, what would you tell her? I mean, what would you say in terms of what is the inherent? She's walking into something. She's coming from another state and another municipality. I mean, what would you tell her needed to be addressed most pressingly from the law enforcement perspective side?
Well, fortunately, Olliette and I had the opportunity to host L.A.C.E at New Hope Missionary Baptist Church on Everest Expressway with Pastor Matthews about a week ago. And the conversation came up about COAC units. And the community felt strongly that we needed to reenact the COAC units where officers were in the community. They had relationships with the community. They knew people by name within those communities. They knew, because every community has that person, that person that everyone in the community respects. So COAC was able to have those relationships. So the question came up about what happened to the COACs. Why can we not have them? So Olliette and I, we do plan to sit down and have a meeting with our new chief. We would love to speak with her. And those would be one of the things that we would definitely like to ask her about, because we do know that we do have Memphis Police Department and the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. However, the Memphis Police Department does have jurisdiction over more of what I would say people of color neighborhoods, and Shelby County does as well, but not as many. But we need to have that conversation. So that would be one of the things that I would speak to her about, of how we could address COACs being re-implemented.
Olliette mentioned a minute ago, there is a transparency and a trust issue that is very big. I mean, very big. And so what do we do to break down those barriers, Barbara? What do we do, or either of you can respond? I mean, how do we break down those barriers, because they are very real and people are angry. I mean, there is a tension out here, and it has a lot to do with mistrust and not being able to hear the entire story, and not being able to, as Olliette said a few minutes ago, be around the table when substantive discussions are being held. How do we get past that?
First of all, with L.A.C.E, we create these conversations when they come into the room and they speak with Olliette and I, when there are rooms that are created where there are no law enforcement officers in the room, and they feel as though they have a voice. They can speak their mind. They can say what they want to say and not feel like they're having any kind of backlash behind that. Because people really believe if I say something against law enforcement, then law enforcement are gonna, they're gonna look up my information and they're gonna hunt me down, and they're gonna they're gonna see me pulling out my driveway, and they're gonna stop me, they're gonna frisk me, they're gonna search my car. So people really feel that way. So that way, Olliette and I, we developed these relationships with them and said, let Olliette be the voice, let Barbara be the voice, and we walk these questions in to these different police departments. Because understand, we don't work just with the local law enforcement. We work with the police department in Chicago and Los Angeles, wherever, whoever wants us to come in and create these conversations. So this is the thing, like I say, it's not just a local thing. This is a nationwide, thing about trust, because it has to be reestablished. And I think Olliette can speak some more on that, because again, she had the victim to survivor type conversations where I had, because I was behind the badge, I was law enforcement. So they hear it differently from me now that I am, former law enforcement and no longer a part of law enforcement.
Olliette, speak to that if you will. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sure. I think there's just some fundamental things when it comes to building trust in relationships. Is one, do what you say you're gonna do. Again, that's one quick way to build trust, right? If you say you're gonna do something, do it. And when sometimes mistakes are gonna happen. Sometimes there are gonna be some breakdowns, but just being open and honest about it, and then addressing it and being. And I think that's what community members want to hear, and what we're hearing, just, be straightforward about it. If mistakes happen, right? And folks want that open transparency, and they want to feel like they're being at the table. Again, when we hear from community members, they want to be a part of keeping their neighborhoods safe.
Right.
And so there's a lot to bring from the law enforcement side, but there's also a lot to bring from the neighborhood side and community members and advocacy organizations as well. So again, having that voice and being at the table and having open, honest conversations helps to build that trust. And so that's what we're hoping to do.
So,
and I also want to say this. I'm sorry, Chad.
No. Go ahead, Barbara.
I also want to say we're willing to come out to your church. We'll come out to your community center, wherever. You just send us an email, your questions to Drobot Consultants at gmail.com, and we'll be happy to meet with you.
You didn't tell me you were in the reading minds, because I was just getting ready to say, let people know how they can reach out and contact you to come and facilitate these conversations and open these doors. But I have to say that. You both bring a wealth of experience to this particular venture that you have engaged in. It's tough. It's going to be tough sledding. This is a tough pull here, but I want to congratulate you both, on L.A.C.E. And again, if folks want to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
They can contact us at Tolbert Drobot. That's Tolbert, Drobot, Drobot. Consultants at gmail.com.
Barbara, Farmer-Tolbert, Olliette, Drobot, I really appreciate you both for taking the time out of your schedules to be with us and visit with our Real Talk Memphis audience. And you are welcome back anytime. Thank you both very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, you all have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard from two experts in this very difficult and frustrating field. There are conversations that need to be had. We need to stop being angry, and we need to open up and talk to each other, and we need to talk about what's on our mind. And in order for us to be able to move forward, those are the type of things that we need to do. This has been a good show tonight. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. Each and every week, I say this, and I mean it. Thank you for those of you who have found us, and those of you who have started to listen to what we're trying to do here. This is a Memphis-based show. We live in Memphis. We work in Memphis. This is where we hang out. This is what we do. So the issues and the concerns and the areas that we focus on are driven by the fact that we live here in Memphis, Tennessee. However, many of the issues that we talk about go across geographical lines. So, we're going to continue to develop the conversation. It is always going to be homegrown and based in this. Marquette plays us out of here. I want to say thank you again for taking an hour of your time. And I also want to thank DJ Lola, who was trying to impress me enough to be a part of my production team here, and I really appreciate her work on this particular episode, and thank you. And we may expand that a little bit. You never can tell. As Adam and Marquette, slowly march their way out. I didn't let them go yet, but in any event, thank you. And if the Lord says so, we'll be back here same time, same station, And we'll try to do it all over again. But when we do, we'll try to do it just a little bit better. So for all of us here at Real Talk Memphis, I'm Chip, and I'm out.
It's real talk.